Okay, in today's episode, welcome Michelle Higgs. Sorry, Michelle Hughes. I'm going to chop that out. We're going to try again. Welcome. We've got Michelle Hughes from Higgs LLP. Thanks very much for getting involved, Michelle.
You're very welcome.
So, Michelle, you're actually the third guest we've had on doing offline with. I think what we're going to do is there's a lot of questions. Rather than make it all the questions, I'm just going to pick out probably about 5 mix of kind of personal and professional ones. So I
Okay.
guess we'll start you off with an easy one.
Good,
How
good,
did
good.
you actually enter a career in digital marketing?
Oh, it was kind of by accident, I would say. It's not like, when you were sat with your careers officer when you were 14, 15, whatever age it was. Obviously, digital marketing didn't exist then because we're going back quite a long time when my careers advisor was sat with me. So I started off as a graphic designer and I was working for an events company at first in Coventry, which is where I'm from. I was made redundant from there and got a job working for, they were called, I think it was Nationwide Medical Media. And what they used to do, they used to design the graphics for when you went into doctors. And you'd sit in the doctor and it'd tell you, don't forget to have your flu jab. The
Yeah,
graphics, that was what I was working on. And then they started dabbling a bit with websites. I sort of sidelined slightly and skewed into web design, but very much obviously WordPress. I don't think it existed. I'd certainly never heard of it. You had to sit there with a copy of Dreamweaver and sort of code it yourself. So I started doing a bit of that. And so I sort of got my fingers in lots of pies, really, but all very much design and creative. And then one of the directors set up what was probably one of the first ever internet jobs boards. It was called jobsin.co.uk. And I was asked to move when they set it up as a new business. I was asked to move over. And so we'd got this lovely website. We'd got investment, angel investment, I think it was. We got investment anyway. And then it was like, well, this is great. We've got this website, but how do we get people to look at it? So Google didn't exist. And so I kind of took it upon myself to work out how to get people to land on this website, both employers and job seekers. And at the time it was mainly done, I do remember it, because it was all about trying to get in the Yahoo directory, which really was the yellow pages of its time, wasn't it? And I can't even remember how you did it, but there was all these different directory sites, and it was trying to get onto these different directories without having to pay. And then back in the good old days when you used to just scrape sites to get email addresses and spam people. I mean, really, that's what you did. You spammed people, and so it kind of grew from there. It was, and then obviously I like to think I've become slightly more sophisticated in my approach.
yeah.
But yeah,
You know,
that's where
can
it
I just
started.
say that you've come through the hard way, because obviously you didn't have the luxury of people nowadays can just, YouTube, they can learn lots of stuff, go to lots of conferences. So that's a really tough way to get into digital, but you've kind of learned a lot of stuff along the way.
Yeah, and I think you do learn by. I think we're all different, aren't we, in the way we learn? But I
Yeah,
learn by doing and making
yeah,
mistakes, thinking, "Oh, I'm
yeah,
not doing that again." And I mean, nowadays, I'd say most of my learning actually comes from LinkedIn
yeah.
because everything moves so fast. There's no
Hmm.
way I could go on a conference today and it would be out of date by the start of next
Yeah,
year. So I
yeah,
tend to follow a lot of people and learn an awful lot on LinkedIn. So I think I'd still sort of specialize in digital rather than more general marketing. But again, when I started off doing it, and you were downloading the server logs to get your analytics, there was
hmm,
no real time pages. It's all just changed so much that it's impossible to keep up and it's impossible to be an expert in every area of digital
yeah,
now. So I
yeah,
used to do like the paid media, social media didn't
yeah,
really
yeah.
exist. But now I don't do the paid media personally. I know
Hmm.
what we need to do, but I get a specialist in to help with that. So I think it's really difficult now I don't think you can be a digital expert. I think you need to go more niche.
Okay, this wasn't a question actually on your original offline. If you could go back in time, knowing what you know now, would you still have done a career in digital, or would you have liked to have done some? If you could have the alternatives kind of universe that exists, what would you love to do?
I think I kind of went full circle actually, because the first job I ever applied for, so I live in Warwick, which is not far from where the guide dog training centre is.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
the first job I ever applied for was to be a guide dog trainer. And anybody who follows me on LinkedIn will know that I love animals, in particular dogs. So I think if I actually had my life again, I would be some kind of animal behaviorist. That's what I would do.
listen. Do you know what? That sounds like a completely. I
Very
think it would be
different
it
dealing
would
with
be
lawyers.
stress. I think it would bring less stress than a career in digital, because animals are just, yeah. We've only got a cat, by the way, and yeah. We love our animals. Right. So the next question now is, when you're not learning about all things digital, which changes constantly, do you switch off? What kinds of things do you like to do in your spare time to de-stress?
So I do find the way my brain works, I actually find it quite hard to switch off because even when I'm doing something that's to as an outsider looking in, probably think I have switched off. Like this morning, I got up early, went walking across the fields with the dog, and if you were watching me, you probably think I didn't have a care in the world, and most of the time I actually don't. But there's still things that I'll be walking along, and I think, and it's normally something that I've read on some social media channel. Well, there's a great group that I'm a member of on Facebook actually, which I think Facebook now has changed so much. Is mainly all groups and people moaning about their bins not being put out, isn't it? But there's some really good groups on there for AI, and some of it I in my spare time I often help friends out with their little marketing projects if they've got small businesses, and I'll just help with a little bit, like because I like to interfere. Basically, I'm like, "Oh, I've got an idea, I've got an idea." So there was a guy that was sharing on this AI group, and it was a prompt that he thought would work well to generate, and I was thinking, "Oh, yeah, I could do that for Nikki, I could do that." So I'm always thinking of
Yeah.
stuff to do. So I think sorry.
I was going to say, so even when you're relaxing, you're still thinking about stuff.
Yeah, I find it really hard to actually completely switch my brain off. So I think if and the only way I can actually do it is to either I play a lot of pickleball these days. So I play pickleball sort of 3 times a week. And I don't tend to think about anything other than pickleball when I'm on the court because there's a
Yeah.
plastic ball being whacked at me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I need
Yeah.
to think and I need to concentrate. So that's really good fun. It allows me to sort of switch off. Or then I love to draw and sketch and doodle. So if I really, really want to just turn my brain off completely, I'll go and dust off the coloured pencils.
Now, for anybody that hasn't seen the article, what I'm going to do on this video is I'm going to put a little kind of picture at this moment, as you've just said that, little picture of the beautiful sketch of the dog that you did, which I thought was brilliant.
Yes. Yeah, that's my
So, in
dog.
fact,
That's my dog, that one.
well, no, keep doing because you're very talented at that, and that is quite a nice, relaxing thing to do in your spare
It
time.
is, yeah. Like I know I've got friends who are sort of into art or crafts, and that's it. And my godson's got a 6-year-old daughter, and I love
Mm,
doing crafts with her. So it's normally our Christmas activity that we get together and we design our Christmas cards for this year. And when I'm with her, again, she's 6 years old. She wants my full attention. So
yeah.
that's great as well. Like she allows me
So
to switch off
so
from
that's a
everything
good
else.
way to de-stress. So you'll not be thinking about anything when you've got the 6-year-old because she's just gonna
Yeah, she
wants
wants
all
my
your time and attention.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and
She
that's
won't.
the way it should be.
There's no way she's
Right,
going to
well,
let me
listen,
sit on
I'm
my
going
phone.
to move on to the next question now. So let me think. And I think this is one that must be asked. Who's been the most influential person or role model in your career and why?
Why? So I would say I've been really fortunate actually that I've had some really great line managers, I would say. But the one that stands out, and she stands out because her name's Carol Bishop, and she's actually retired now. I think she still dabbles a bit, but she has sort of retired. But she was my line manager when I worked for OCR, the exam boards. I was there for about 6.5 years. So she line managed me really briefly, actually, in between two marketing directors. So whilst they were waiting, and I can't remember her job title at the time, but she maybe sales director. But the reason Carol sticks in my mind is apart from the fact she was really good fun, which and you remember. I think you remember people that make you feel good, don't you? Really,
Yeah, yeah,
thing that really stuck out or stands out for me for Carol is she always had my back. And I've never forgotten that really. So she was always really, really supportive. But yeah, the thing when the chips were down, which occasionally they are, if you make a mistake or you need someone to back you up, I knew 100% that Carol always had my back. And
yeah,
that's the reason for me. And I try and do that with people that I work with as well, is to just make sure they know that I'm on their side. I'm always on their side. And even if I don't agree with them, which I don't always, publicly, I will always agree with them. And
yeah,
then in private, I might say, I don't think that's right, or here's
yeah,
my
yeah,
view, because
yeah.
I'm not always right either. So, but yeah, I like to think I've always got the back of my team.
Yeah, I think that's a good quality, Michelle. And I think your team, as they grow and evolve in their career, they'll always remember that because you always respect the managers. I look back at the managers that I had. There are the real insanely clever ones that you remember for being insanely clever. But the ones that I kind of hold closer to my heart are the kinds of people that you've mentioned. Carl, the person who, you know, They want to make you feel like they're there to support you and they will have your back. And they're not just going to throw you under the rug in a board
Yeah.
meeting or just to advance their
Yeah, absolutely. Because you remember those line managers as well, but for all the wrong
yeah,
reasons.
for all the wrong reasons. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's go on to, and I have to ask this one because I'm intrigued myself. The fun fact about you. Go on, tell me about this pub.
So I love animals. So one of the things that I do where I spend, if I was ever in a sat down face to face with my bank manager and explaining why I've never got any money, it's because I like to pick an animal that I would like to see in the wild, and then I go. So I went to the Arctic on a polar bear sort of expedition, I suppose you would call it. So I spent 10 days, I think it was, in the Arctic on a boat looking at polar bears. And when we got there, the first thing that you do, first thing I notice when we got to Salmard is this sign to the northernmost pub in the world. And it's sort of like,
Yeah,
well, we've got to go there, haven't we? Just to tick to say you've done it, really. It's actually, I mean, it's not a pub by English standards. It's actually like a hotel bar, but it's still a tick. It's a fun fact. Because it's
what did
always
you
like,
order? Did you order a drink? What did you order?
yeah, we did have drinks. We did have drinks in there. I honestly can't remember. We met up with a load of people from all around the world who were coming on the trip
Yeah,
with us.
yeah.
There was a lady from the UK was there. A Canadian couple I remember. Yeah, and it was really nice. It was a really great experience. But
You'll
yes,
never
I have
forget
been to
that.
that pub. Yeah, I have.
You'll never forget that for the rest of your life. Absolutely not. Okay, let's get a bit about Higgs in here because, the proudest professional achievement to date. Yeah, what's your proudest professional achievement to date if you had to pick one?
I would pick. So I've done a few things in my career that I think, I don't really like, patting myself on the back because it makes me feel
Should?
incredibly
Why not?
uncomfortable. I really don't like
Fine,
it.
pat yourself on the back.
No, I don't. I know, and everybody says, "Well, no one else is going to do it," and I think, yeah, you're probably right, but I don't like it. It makes me feel really uncomfortable. But I've done so in a previous job. I increased their income from the website by something like 400 over 400%. So you think, well, it's good. It's on my CV and it's good. I must be proud of it because it's on my CV. But at Higgs, I've worked on lots of brand projects over my career, but I've never actually led on one. I've always been, just part of the process and sort of sat there sometimes and thought, well, that's not right. The end products or output, I've thought, well, I work here and that doesn't feel true. It's not. I don't feel like that's actually the brand. So at Higgs, we went through quite a robust process actually, and we did involve everybody. So it wasn't just a case of let's go and ask the partners who they think Higgs are. It was about all of our people. It was about asking our clients. And we're a lot involved with a lot of charities and the community. And our business partners as well. So it was getting the opinions of all these people as to who Higgs actually are. And I think the reason our brand works so well and why I'm so proud of it is because if you've dealt with Higgs, it feels like Higgs. We are people driven. Um, and I think people sort of learn about us on LinkedIn as well, because although we've got this approach of obviously getting all of our lawyers to sort of post, and you see the interactions between all of us as a team on LinkedIn, and you'll see that we do all get on, and we really do care about each other. So I think that's probably why it's my proudest achievement, is because it's a brand that I led on, but it's actually the brand that resonates the most with people.
Okay, well, can I just endorse that? Because there's two things you've said. Number one, your brand is so strong, and what you've done actually introduced you as Michelle Higgs.
Yeah, there is that. Yeah, there is that.
It's
An easy
Michelle
mistake to
Hughes.
make.
It's Michelle Hughes, head of digital marketing for Higgs LLP. And the
Yeah.
second thing was LinkedIn. It's one of the reasons why you're here today. I mean, obviously, I see you a lot on LinkedIn, and I do notice, and I like what you do. Actually, it's like a Tuesday thing. You seem
Yeah.
to schedule, so you're not kind of saturating LinkedIn like a lot of people. And I'm trying not to do that, and I learn from people like you because I can see that you have this schedule of
Yeah.
when and what you're going to say. I've seen a few of your posts and it got me thinking, okay, Michelle, I know you've come to the events in the past, but actually you'd be ideal for me to approach to try and get you on here. So it's opened the door in effect for you to be here as well. And I'm sure it's opened the door for you to be
Yeah, and
many
I
places.
think that's people the thing with LinkedIn is I think people get lost in the numbers, and obviously social media is designed to do that, isn't it? It's all about dopamine hits. So you see that you've had 1,000 impressions or 10,000 impressions or 100,000 impressions, and you want more. But actually, 100,000 impressions from all the wrong people is going to make
Yeah.
absolutely no difference
Yeah.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
So I've kind of changed my approach slightly in that I do try and talk to one audience. I talk obviously about marketing or about Higgs or both, and then there's a few bits in there about me and what I'm up to just in life in
Yeah.
general,
Yeah.
because you sort of want people to get to know me, and I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea, and that's absolutely fine. But what I've noticed is when we've started to change tact and that we're actually just talking to who we want to talk to rather than trying to get to as many people as possible, we are generating more opportunities. And it's things like this. So I think
Yeah.
this is the fourth podcast I've been invited on now. And I've been asked to write like articles for magazines and things. So, but when I was appealing to the masses and getting massive amounts of likes and different things from people that were never going, not that you're going to buy off me anyway, but are not going to be really interested in me or Higgs. I looked like I was more successful if you look at what I always coin vanity metrics, but actually,
Yeah.
no. So it's about talking to, I always say, it's
Yeah.
funny on Teams this morning, I'm always doing it to our team. It's not about getting in front of the most people, it's the right people.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, obviously, I've just launched the podcast. It's kind of a work in progress for me. And I have to say, you do look at, I try not to, and this is an honest answer, I try not to look at competitors because I like to try and not be influenced by what other people do or have a fresh take. But sometimes it's hard not to see what other people do in your space. And there's loads of different ways in which people do podcasts. And I look at it and go, oh my God, it's overly produced. It looks, there's no way I could ever do that. And you kind of get frightened and stifled by everything that's out there. And then sometimes I just say to myself, no, it's going to be a work in progress. I'm going to improve as I go on, but it's about authenticity and
Yes,
it's
yes.
having that personal connection with people, talking about real things, and keeping it engaging, but in a nice, natural, authentic, genuine way, rather than me, and I do have a massive microphone that I could have planted right here. I could have put my massive, massive headphones on and blurred out my background to put the green, but I thought, no, I'm just gonna.
No,
There's pictures. There's a pumpkin that my little daughter's made. There's my Rubik's cube over there that you can't see. Anyway, yeah, you're doing the right thing though. Keep doing what you do.
thank you.
So let's go on to, okay, I've got to ask this. This will be the final question, and it's probably the toughest question, I guess.
Oh,
What
okay.
is the biggest opportunity for digital marketers in 2026? Obviously, we can't talk too far ahead because things change so fast, but in your opinion,
I would say, I mean, the most obvious answer is AI, but AI on its own isn't an opportunity. It's learning how to use it. But I think there's obviously a lot of talk about will AI take our jobs, and I don't think it will. However, I do think marketeers who learn how to really effectively use AI potentially could take my job. So for me, it's a massive opportunity, but it's learning what to, and I'm completely guilty of this at the moment. I go, shiny thing and I'm off and I'm creating. I did it for my friend at the weekend. So she's got a glassware business and I was like, oh, I can animate that and put your logo on there and do this and make it spin round. And suddenly I've got, I've lost an hour of my life for something that I don't actually need to do. And I think that's the problem with AI. It's new and shiny, and Meta have just released an update. I think it was yesterday, and you can now generate text to video on there, and it's free. And most of the platforms you can do it, but it's not free. So, and I'm like, oh, I must go and have a go with that. So I think actually it's a massive opportunity. But if we don't watch it, it could also be a threat because you get so distracted by it.
yeah,
So I think there's also an opportunity for marketeers in terms of don't be distracted by AI and keep doing what you're doing, because some of the traditional channels still work and work really, really well. And I think, like there's a huge amount of talk in the SEO space about what's going to happen with Google and Google search. And there's definitely a shift. But if your sole focus is to rank, or well, it wouldn't be rank, or appear or be, mentioned by ChatGPT, then you're still missing out on a huge, huge opportunity with Google as it currently is. And when Google turns on AI mode completely, that's going to create another opportunity. But don't be so focused on what might happen that you're actually missing out on what's still working. So
yeah.
there's potential huge opportunities, probably all related to AI, but also don't neglect the channels that still work.
Yeah, yeah. Well, listen, Michelle, first of all, thank you very much for taking part. You're the first client side person. So we had
Okay.
Amanda Walls. We had Amanda Walls, who runs Cedarwood Digital Agency, and
Yes,
then we had
I know.
Stephen Kenwright. Then we had Stephen Kenwright. I was trying to get, I'm not going to mention his name, but I did try to get a guy from Sainsbury's on
Oh,
I'm still going to try and get him on. He's done it. In fact, it's Dan Padmore. I don't mind saying he's already done it, as in an offline. But I want to try and get him on the podcast. I want to try and get like a nice blend of industry people that work for brands like yourself, and obviously a mix of agency people. Well, thank you very much for being the first client side person.
you're very welcome.
And if there's anything, listen, I always like to finish it with the last minute. If there's anything you want to plug, is there anything you want to promote or anything that you've got coming up over the next 6 months you want to make people aware of, whether it's a speaking engagement or I don't know, it's a new venture, a charity, whatever, or nothing?
No, nothing that springs to mind. Nothing I should have, shouldn't I? We've got a lot of charity clients, so I should be able to plug one of them, but I wouldn't
Yes.
want to pick one.
Yeah,
Yeah, I wouldn't want to pick one over the other.
that's fine. LinkedIn, I'll obviously post your link where people connect with you. And as I say, thank you very much.